I'm Mike.
And I'm Danny.
And this is PetrolRevolt.
So today we have the privilege of riding the Langen 2-stroke. Personally, I'm very excited for this, so I'm going to waste no time and get my helmet on and get out on track. So we have the Langen 250, the Langen 2-stroke, sorry. I first see this bike actually at the NEC bike show, and it was probably one of the only bikes I stopped to look at. One what drew its attention to me was that it's a 2-stroke, and I absolutely love 2-strokes and the look of it, you know, the Cafe Racer style 2-stroke. I've never seen anything like this before. So that is what drew the attention to me for this bike, and I tell you what, it's not failing. The way it rides is incredible, you know, it's like modern day, just like a modern day 2-stroke, it's amazing. Throttle connections, nice on it. Got to get a bit of warmth in the tyres. The smell is incredible. I love the smell of it. It pulls from really low down as well for a road bike. It's incredible. Obviously with the high bars on it, you know, it's a sit-up in bed bike, Cafe Racer style, so it's nice and comfortable. And you got that lovely 2-stroke sound. Really does pick up after 8,000 RPM. Very nice bike. It is sort of all what I expected it to be. Trying to learn it. as much as I can. You know, it's got the right suspension, it's got brilliant suspension in it. It almost feels like a race bike. It doesn't feel soft and sludgy and... It is a beautiful, and it just, like I said before, it pulls from right the way down the bottom. Brakes are good on it. So the suspension feels good. The suspension feels like race suspension. Doesn't dive too quick. Brakes are amazing on it. Brakes are really good. It's sort of everything you want in a bike. The clutch is nice and light. The mirrors don't get in the way, that's a massive, massive plus. So we spun a few laps now on the Langen motorcycle, and it's fair to say that I've fallen in love with this motorcycle even more than what I did at the NEC bike show last year when I first see it. We have Nick here from Langen Motorcycles. So Nick, just give us an insight on how Langen come about and yeah, how the company was born.
Yeah, well, it was great fun watching you out there. I could see you were having fun. So Langen is we're a 3-year-old company, started by a guy called Chris Ratcliffe. He comes to the company by way of TVR and CCM, another motorcycle company in the Northwest. And he had a dream to create his ultimate bike, you know. So he started this company 3 years ago in Wigan. I joined him about 2 years ago, and at that stage he'd sketched this bike, and we had the startings of this bike and the engine, and we've been developing it, you know, for the last 3 years to where you see it right now.
So basically it was just someone's dream. We wanted to build a bike and go from there then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it starts as a English-Italian love story, actually. That's how Chris tells it. So he met Vincenzo, who's the designer of the engine, at EICMA in Milan, one of the big motorcycle shows over there, and in Italy. And he spotted the engine, and Vincenzo had been working on the engine to get maximum performance. So it was running in a track bike, 95 brake horsepower, real strong sort of Grand Prix replica, very modern thing. And Chris said, look, I want your engine. I've got an idea for a road bike, Cafe Racer. Can we have it, please? So over the following few months, I think Chris actually wrote him a love letter, is what he says. He's pleading with him to get the engine. So they did a deal, and this is that engine, but we've been working to retune it to what you had today.
Yeah, I mean, when I first see it at the NEC bike show, I did fall in love with it because it's the Cafe Racer style bike. It's cool looking, but the main thing what stood out to me was that it was a 2-stroke. The exhaust pipes on it look like an RSW Aprilia 250 race bike. So that's, you know, that's got that it's very similar to that, but it's just such a unique bike, and it's a beautiful thing to look at. You know, we was discussing earlier that it's something you could just have in your hallway and have sitting there because it's beautiful. But Not just that, I was pleasantly surprised when I rode it on how it rode. You know, it rides like a modern day bike, almost like rides like a 4-stroke. You know, it comes off the corners nice and smooth. The change in direction is good. You can brake on the side of the tyre. It's got phenomenal brake power on it as well. And you know, we know it's not the quickest thing in the world, but it's quick enough to have a lot of fun on.
Yeah.
And it's got all the modern elements to it, but it's still got the 2-stroke sound and the 2-stroke feel to it. And for me, it put a smile on my face. I don't ride bikes on the road, but I would, if I did, I would definitely have one of these.
It's good to hear. Yeah. Well, I think the you know, the essence of the motorcycle, the Cafe Racer styling, you know, it's a little bit nostalgic. So there's some styling touches there. The shocks kind of a Vincent Black Shadow style, so very inclined. Sort of Norton featherbed line. If you stand back and look at the bike, you can see that straight line underneath the tank. But you're right, it's all about the 2-stroke, and the 2-stroke sells the motorcycle. And as you touched on, the main advantage is that it's got modern electronic tech on there, so you can throw all those jets, you know, that you have been carrying around in your pockets, and just push the starter button. And from that race bike engine, we've kind of developed it into quite a tractable road engine. So if you want to short shift, you know, pop down the shops or squirt around the local town centre, it's perfectly happy to do that. And then for your favourite A and B roads, you know, you just get after it a little bit. Power band is nice and progressive, and then between about 8 and 12, yeah, you can kick gears at it. It's quite a weapon, isn't it?
And for the styling side of things, obviously you've gone for the Cafe Racer style of things. Was that just a personal preference?
Yeah, I think the ethos behind, I mean, you choose a 2-stroke, and for many people, it's nostalgic. Maybe they grew up in the 70s, they watched Barry Sheen race, or the 80s, and through to the 90s even, where you saw, you know, the birth of Rossi, and a lot of people have very nostalgic ideas about 2-stroke motorcycles. So it had to be a little bit nostalgic. So I think to bring in some design cues of the Cafe Racer is the right thing to do, and it suits the character of the bike. The lightweighting, you know, Cafe Racers are all about, you know, I guess Ton Up Club is the history behind the Cafe Racer, so going from A to B as quickly as you can and finding a nice A and B road to enjoy. So we've sprung it nice and soft, so you get plenty of grip and nice wide bars or clip-on, so you can turn in and have good control. And I think that lightweight nature suits the Cafe Racer style. I mean, it looks nostalgic, but really it's a very modern motorcycle, lots of modern components on there, aluminium, carbon fibre, etc., etc. So you get a real modern feel when you're riding it around.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing for me. We've rode RGs and stuff like that round this circuit, and you know, the RGs, you have to be very precise with them. You know, you can't trail brake very much and stuff like that. Whereas this bike, you can. Okay, it's not in a racer position. You know, if you wanted to lean it over a bit further, you could do with the foot pegs raising up a little bit and stuff like that. But you can trail brake the brake, and it turns direction really nice. So yeah, for me, it was a pleasure to ride, and I didn't really want to get off it, to be honest with you. But you know, it's got, obviously you've got modern forks on it, Öhlins forks.
Yep.
That helps a lot with the handling, and also the 2 shocks on it. Was that just a styling design, or was it you know, from the manufacturing side of things, was it easier, or was it just how it sort of come about?
Yeah, I think it's the choice to use the twin shock in that particular configuration. It's kind of equal measures, really. So there's strong engineering reasons why we have a twin shock, and the main one would be that the original engine had so much time on circuit and has had so much love spent on it to get it to that feeling on your hand that you have on the throttle. That, as you know, in a 2-stroke, the exhaust is a real critical component of that. So the exhaust takes priority, and if you look at the routing of the exhaust through the motorbike, it directly conflicts with where you would put a traditional linkage and monoshock assembly. So to retain the exhaust and the engine character, not to compromise that in any way, to move the shocks out is kind of a logical decision. And when you've already chosen a Cafe Racer, well, twin shock is the way to go. So it
suits it, doesn't it? It suits the whole bike with it being twin shock like that. It does. Yeah. It suits the whole style. But to be honest with you, my favourite part of this bike is the exhaust. They look amazing, you know, and it just takes it back, like I said earlier, to the sort of Aprilia RSW 250 days, and you know, with the 2 pipes like that, it's incredible. But I know how expensive it is to develop a 2-stroke, and this bike, it comes in at about 30 grand. Am I right in saying that?
Yep.
So it comes in at about 30 grand. To me, developing a two-stroke, that's not expensive. So, you know, I can't get my head around how you've managed to develop this beautiful bike and you're only selling it for that amount of money. To someone sort of off the street, it might sound like a lot of money, but when you know the amount what goes into developing two-strokes and a bike like this, it's not. So, you know, I can't get my head around how cheap for what it is, really.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Well, I'm not going to give away any secrets as to how we do it, but in principle, it's about choosing where the value needs to be. So we're a design team, and we don't really make anything, but we design a lot of stuff, simulate a lot of stuff, and then work with people who really know how to make good forks, Olins, good suspension units, K-Tech, good wheels, Dimag. So they're already out there in mass production, but you need to just specify them. So we make a specification based on what we want, and then we take benefit from those big suppliers who've already got big volume, and then the small, more bespoke items, we can focus in on those, and it does make the bike look very, very bespoke indeed. But actually, there's lots of off-the-shelf and very tried and tested components. The brakes you mentioned, well, they're tested in British superbikes. No wonder they're good, but we can buy those from Hell at a cost price and pass those on to the customer. So we try and pick and choose the best to get best value for the customer. Yeah,
and also, like we was talking earlier, the customer can sort of, obviously not build the bike from the ground up, but they can have, you know, when they buy the bike, they get the choice of paint and stuff like that, don't they? They get all customization sort of stuff, which I think you're probably one of the only companies in the UK doing that. So I think that's an amazing thing. Also, what I like with a two-stroke, and we spoke about it earlier, is a dry clutch. If I was to have one, and not for any performance reason or anything like that, I just love it because of the sound. So if a customer come to you, would they be able to add something like that to it?
Yeah, so I guess there's two levels of accessories you can have. We've got some standard ones. So when you come and visit us in Wigan, we go through a full scheme of options, and as you mentioned, there's colour options and different bar configurations. And then over and above that, you're speaking to the engineers, who'd be either myself or James or Chris, and if there's a particular requirement that just isn't on that options list, we can engineer it for you. So a good example would be, there's quite a few customers who want to take it out on circuit and they'd like a fairing at the front, so bikini fairing to get tucked in under, so we're starting to do that at the moment. These straight bars that you see on there, they weren't on the original options list. We've got a couple of customers who want a slightly more relaxed riding position. So yeah, one of the benefits of coming to Langan is that you can work directly with an engineer, and we can make things happen.
Brilliant. Yeah. And so what's next for the company? This is obviously, you're only selling 100 of these, aren't you?
That's right. Yeah.
So what's next? Are you going to develop another two-stroke, or are you going to go in a bit of a different direction? Or, you know, I mean, it's even I love this style of bike. So any style of this bike, I would much prefer to ride on the road rather than a sports bike. Personally, you know, I've raced sports bikes all my life and race bikes all my life. So to go out on the road, if I did go out on the road, it would be nice just to have a different concept of motorcycle riding.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have another bike in the pipeline. I can say for sure it's a 4-stroke, and it's not a cafe racer. It's definitely going to be a road bike, so we're not looking at a sort of a super bike. And I'm under, you know, it's top secret at the moment, so I can't tell you too many details. What I can say is, though, the ethos of Langan is particularly lightweighting and clever use of materials. You know, in looking towards sort of the environmental challenges, to make things lighter not only makes the performance better, but it reduces the footprint of the motorcycle as well. So you kind of win on all ground. So the next one will definitely be lighter. And Chris at the moment is saying, if you read some of the journalist stories, we're going to be about 2/3 of the weight of the nearest rival. So pick your popular bike genre, make it in the UK, and make it 2/3 lighter.
And will that have the same sort of process with it? You know, the customers will come in, they can customise it, they can sort of have their own colours, or will it be more of a generic bike?
I think the nature of this bike being 100, we can have it very bespoke. I think for the next bike, we'll be going up in volumes. I'm not exactly sure what numbers, but it'll be in a few thousand, something like that. And I think by its nature, it'll become less customised. Maybe the standard options list will be larger, but less customisable.
So I found with the rev range on it, obviously it was a very smooth pickup of the throttle, and it was very smooth picking up. Can you change anything in the ignition to change that, or is it just one base setting? Yes,
we have your base setting, standard map if you like, as you call it, and that's what you experience today. So It's nice, you can short shift up to about 8,000 RPM, and then power band is between 8 and 12, which is what you found. And the transition really, the electronically controlled exhaust servos, they're mapped. So the transition between not on the pipe and on the pipe is nice and smooth. A few other road testers have said, and customers said, well, can we have an old school map? Can we make it like it used to be? So bit more of a sharp transition between the two. So we do have an old school map, which basically means the power band just cuts in a bit more harshly. There's no more power, it just changes the transition as it comes on pipe.
And also, what sort of, because to make a two-stroke reliable, you know, without, like you said before, with the jets, you know, going out, having jets in your pockets and stuff like that, the fuel injection system on this is a bit more technical, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's quite advanced. So
Yeah.
just explain to us what the fuel injection system is like.
Yes, I mean it's a relatively conventional two-stroke, apart from the fact that it's got fuel injection, oil injection, and those exhaust servos. They're all mapped. So it's just had lots and lots and lots of dyno time, road testing, hour after hour after hour, different conditions. So basically the bike has just got a massive lookup table, and it says, I'm at Curborough, these are the settings we need. So it's always looking to optimize the system. And when you do enough hours of testing, the bike you start to get more and more data on there, and you change the map and it becomes more and more reliable. So the map we have for the bike is an evolution of the original race bike map. The original race bike engine was running 95 brake horsepower. You know, it's quite a weapon of a thing. So we've retuned it for the roads. It's got quite it's in a safe position now, really, about 76 brake horsepower. In terms of reliability, well, we've just proven it through road miles and just small iterative changes of that map to perfect it.
And so, what was the engine originally? Was it made by that sole guy, or was it based off a sort of a race engine?
Yeah, I mean,
there are lots of these sort of race engines sort of out there. So did he make it from fresh, or did he have some ideas?
It's a brand new engine. It's a brand new engine from Vincenzo. I mean, he is a huge Grand Prix 250cc Grand Prix fan, and it was his aim to make a Grand Prix style bike. So that was the original concept for the engine. I guess you can make analogies. The RGV had a V-twin, and then later used in the Aprilia RS250 as road bikes, and also in Grand Prix bikes, the V-twin configuration. But essentially the engine is brand new, yeah.
And what about the noise and the emission testing? Obviously in the UK it's quite strict over here. So how was it a big challenge to get through that, or was it quite plain sailing?
Well, we like challenges in engineering. That's the aim of the game, really. And I guess to draw an analogy to your racing, you get a set of rules and you build your bike to your rules. And if you don't stay to the rules, you can get scrutineered and get thrown out, can't you? And our scrutineering test is something called the MSVA test. So we register all these bikes for the UK market using single vehicle approval, motorcycle single vehicle approval. And to do that, you take it to what looks like an MOT test station, and you have a guy there that just goes through it with a fine tooth comb according to that rule book. And the rule book states that you can make so many decibels at so many RPMs, and you can make the emissions test is within a particular parameter, and we sail through them actually. To give you an idea about how clean the bike is, I mean the mapping was designed to get as much horsepower out of it, and the more oil you burn, the less horsepower you make. So Vincenzo optimised the map to burn as little as oil as possible to get his 95 brake horsepower. We thought, well, that sounds fantastic because we can get it through emissions, no problem. So, I mean, I used to have an Aprilia RS250 cut bike, and I used to get my Accumix out and mix 30 to 1. So for every 1 part of oil, I had 30 parts fuel. And on our road testing, we run at about 200 to 1 on average. The map's always changing, so it's using different amounts of oil at different times, but on average 200 to 1. So we're using 7 times less oil than a two-stroke of yesteryear. So to get through emissions it's not a problem. There is a Euro 5 version of this engine, but still you have to drop the horsepower a little bit. But in the UK market, where we still have the MSVA, it's just not an issue whatsoever.
Oh, brilliant! Well, that's good to know. And it's all them sort of challenges, isn't it? You don't think about when well, especially someone like me who's just used to getting on them and racing them, and they make loads of noise and stuff like that. But so what were your personal highlights of being involved in this project? Because you're 3 years old, it's very new. So what were your personal highlights?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked at a large motorcycle manufacturer in a previous role, and it's actually you feel really lucky when you're working on a project like this. You can work in a small team, lots of like-minded people, and we all have a similar goal to get this motorcycle to the state that you see it in right now. So there isn't one particular highlight actually. When you're working with a team, a cohesive team, to one goal, watching it going from that original sort of rolling concept chassis through to watching you razz it around Curborough Sprint track is, it's fantastic.
So I think the last thing we need to cover is obviously the most important things, the specs about the bike.
The top trumps.
The top trumps, yeah.
Go on. Okay, so well, I guess the headline figures are it weighs 120 kilos, depending on how you measure it, between 120 and 125 kilos, whether it's got fuel or not. The engine puts out 76 brake horsepower, 33 foot-pounds. What's that in metric? 57 kilonewtons, 45 newton meters. And on a two-stroke, as you know, they all hit it at the same power band, so it's 11,700 RPM for all those figures. Top speed, we've geared it to 120 miles an hour. Possibly if you have a bikini fairing on there and you get tucked in, somebody of your stature, you may be able to get a little bit more out of it, but that's what we've geared it to. So, and then as you say, the price is about £30,000 depending on how you specify it. So with the optional extras you see on the bike, this one's about 34,000, something like that.
I mean, the brakes on it are obviously, like you mentioned earlier, are superbike brakes, and they are incredible. And I think the handling of a bike, a road bike, the biggest thing with it is suspension. You know, when you get on a normal road bike out of the showroom, the suspension is soft. It doesn't really do what you want it to do. It doesn't turn very fast because it's just soaking everything up, and it's mega soft. When I first got on this, it turned like a dream, and I think that would be the biggest difference. If you rolled a normal, even a sports bike out the showroom and then rolled this out, this would feel sort of more like a race bike already because of the suspension what's in it.
Yeah.
That, for me, that was a big highlight of it as well.
Yeah, we've tried not to hide the race bike heritage, you know, and two-stroke is synonymous with racing, isn't it? So the people who are going to buy the bike want that sort of racy feel to it. So it's got quite a relaxed riding position, but as you point out, you know, the geometry of the bike is quite racy. So the kind of rake and trail figures, for example, quite racy numbers.
And to be honest with you now, you can't go out and go fast on the roads. You know, there's a lot of speed cameras around, there's a lot of potholes. The way you actually sit on this bike, for me, to ride it around the street, to ride it around A-B roads, to ride it in the city, perfect, you know, and it's got enough power, you can have fun on it, it handles brilliantly. Yeah, and it's just for me, this is like a perfect road bike.
So you need to get your license then, don't you, and get one?
I do. But no, Nick, thank you again for letting us ride it and letting us review it, and you know, having a go on it, because it's been an absolute pleasure, and it's put a smile on my face, that's for sure.
Yeah, good. And ours too. Yeah,
thank
cheers.
you. So that's the end of the day. I want to thank Langen Motorcycles once again for lending us their beautiful two-stroke motorcycle. Please check out our website for our merchandising, our up-and-coming events, hit the bell notification, and make sure you subscribe to our channel for our up-and-coming videos. Thank you for joining us, and see you again soon.